Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the EnergiaSaves podcast. I'm Kendra McQuilton, the CEO of Energia, and today I'm very excited to have with me a guest who is also a good friend and a
Hey,
great
how's it
friend,
going? Wow.
Dr. Jack Mitchell. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm good. I'm excited. I actually have the day off. Certain schools in the island are celebrating it. Some celebrated yesterday. I was fortunate ours is today. So I'm excited because guess what? This is the actually first time I'm on a podcast. So I'm
Oh,
elated.
and so am I. I'm honored. Great. So the title of today's podcast is Real World Energy Savings Valley Stream 24. So we thought it would be good to get an actual business official's perspective on what it's like to do an EPC, an energy performance contract, and their experience. And so we are just thrilled to have Dr. Jack on the program. So, Jack, why don't you give us some background on yourself and how long you've
Sure.
been a business official and how long have you
Mhm.
been at Valley Stream? Just what's your background?
Sure. Thanks, Kendra, for that. So I have been in Valley Stream 24, which is actually one of the unique districts. There are about a handful of districts that are actually K through 6 or component districts where we feed into, we're just elementary, feeding into the Valley Stream Central High School District in my case. So Valley Stream 24, um, it's interesting, our the way it's set up because we all work under one teaching contract, things like that. But we are separate and distinct districts. So coming on board in 2015, it was great under Dr. Edward Fail, brand new to the SBO. I want to say role in being in the top seat, right? I had maybe a couple of years experience prior as number two, but this is my first real show, and it's been great. I can just tell you that being in a small district, my budget's about 34 million, about 120 teachers, about 200 some odd staff. It's like a family, right? And students, about 1,100 students in 3 schools. You get to know, have a sense of everybody. So I really enjoy it, having fun. It's just like day one, and again, 7 years. So that's my background. But prior, I was in finance for about 10 years. Well, shade on a decade at Wall Street, and then prior to that, believe it or not, I was in a classroom as well for about 7, 8 years as a high school math teacher. So very unique experience, but I definitely enjoy and love what we're doing now. So thank you.
Fantastic. And I didn't even know that you were a math teacher. I don't think I ever heard that before. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, how did you first learn about energy performance contracts?
So this is great because coming into Valley Stream in 2015, me being in the top seat for the first time, I really wanted to show and prove. And uh, you know, when as the business officials, one of the things we're really charged for is obviously doing a budget every year, primary function, but really, looking at other alternatives, whether it be financing or being able to maybe find ways to cut expenditures, right? Maybe rebidding. And so I remember that year, I had pretty much my eyes and ears open to any event that was going on, whether it be with the association, as well, New York, or just local chapters and peers and colleagues. So, long story short, there was actually a little seminar hosted by Lamb and Bernarski, law firm, who at the time was our general counsel, and they had an event they were hosting. Munistat, the financial advisor, which we also utilize, and you guys, formerly
Oh,
ECG, now Energia, right? So, um, great. I met Aldo, which you recall from the past, and he was new too. He was like we were green, he was green, and so we were just talking about it, and I said, "Well, hey, I mean, I know that Valley Stream already did an energy performance contract." When I found it out, he said, "Don't worry about it. You guys did it in 2008, and it's 2015, so your baseline is probably could be lower now." So, he said it's no cost to come check it out and just do an assessment. and it worked out perfect because then we realized that there were really more ways to save. Wound up, as you know, we may speak to this later on, but the solar, the LED lighting. There's so many plethora of ways, I should say, in which you could really reduce energy, and that was a wonderful thing. So that's how I met found out about ECG and
Excellent.
energy.
Yes. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your project at Valley Stream 24, and maybe just give the audience some idea of, as a business official, what were the areas of concern or skepticism, if that existed? What should business officials know about this process, the good, and how to protect
Yeah.
yourself as well?
Well, I don't think there was much negative. Because actually at the time, SED was making a push uh for districts to move with these vessels because you know Kendra, one of the unique situations here is that you can really bring savings, long-term substantial savings, and that's aidable, right? And
Yes.
so that's why SED really got involved. And the beauty behind it was that and it was really for us having such a high building aid, almost like 60%, I think it was 58%, you know, maybe relinquishing 10%, right? Because you don't go to the voters. But that was great because there's a whole, not so necessarily a song and dance, but there's a whole process you have to do, right? When you're setting up a bond referendum and working with the community. And so at the end of the day, this is going to be a benefit, and it's not going to really bring anything additional for your taxpayers. So that's really one thing you want to look at. And not for me, being new, maybe not knowing much about it. I want to say there wasn't any pitfalls, but that um, being able to communicate to others effectively. What I mean by that is, so I had learned about it, but then, you know, within the district, such as superintendent and other stakeholders, um, they were a little somewhat leery about this, right? Because
Mm.
it's almost too good to be true,
Right.
in some fashion. So, you know, I would say being a conduit to help educate them. So it became a situation where they were overly cautious and they wanted our architects to get involved. And it became a little bit hairy because, as you know, your company is the architect behind it. And then so ours got involved. And then in the middle, we changed legal counsel. And the legal counsel that we picked up were very stringent on protecting the district, which is fine. So, there weren't necessarily negatives, right? It just somewhat delays behind the process to make sure, if you will, that the project was going to benefit us and it was going to be as it entailed. And that's really what it came down to. I mean, just a little bit of tidbits behind it. The cost was about 2.6 million, with about 125,000 um, a year savings in energy and operational 43. It's a great thing, 72% utility reduction. And, you know, for one of our schools already being green, I mean, with the geothermal, we're like almost going all green. And that's a great thing because not only are you doing better for the environment, and you're saving money, but you're an example for your student population as well as your neighborhood and the district. So it was a great thing.
Absolutely. Did you get community or student reaction for the project?
Yeah, we got some community that really recognized us. It was a combination because we had the geothermal there, but having going solar was definitely something big at the time. Many districts hadn't started doing that yet. I mean, some had. Not saying we were the first with that, but as you know, back in that time, 6, 7 years ago, it really wasn't as common, and so it was really good to get that recognition because then our district is now more in favorable light. So I believe it was just i- if it was a minor press, the local newspaper, low media coverage, nothing big like on nothing like a broadcast, but it was some mention, and it was make us very proud that what we did again, as I said before, substantial energy savings and really for the environment. So It's good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of these projects is going to the board meetings actually, because it's one of those topics that people really rally around, I find, and you don't get much opposition. In fact, people are excited to implement energy savings opportunities. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy that also. All right, so we're going to close up, Jack. I'm wondering what might have surprised you about the process or the outcome, and then also just, what would you leave your fellow business officials with in terms of the concept overall and how they should view it?
Sure, Kendra. Yeah. As you wrap up, I can reflect and say that what the biggest take home for me is that understanding that energy saving is not a one time thing. It's moving, and being responsible for the environment is a huge responsibility, and it's something you should take upon as a district. So for me, you know, I would say I wasn't surprised really much about the process or outcome because it really was, like I said before, as designed, as advertised. However, it was just something that on the other side, when you see the final product and you're out there in the community and just you feel good. You almost want to have your chest out. And so I would just tell others that you know energy is a dynamic that's always changing. As you see now, we're dealing with obviously gas prices rising. That's a separate issue, but overall, there are many ways that you have to look into a school district and both sides of the balance sheet. Like I said earlier, the expenditures as well as revenue. And when you think about it, you could find ways maybe to cut expenditures and maybe generate more revenue. However, this is like one of the best ways to do it. And it's such a substantial benefit and very meaningful to your district. So I would, let others know that even if you had an energy performance done before, get an assessment because getting an assessment doesn't hurt. And maybe you too can really realize something positive like this.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. I think
Mm.
it's really important that we bring guests on that are actually sitting in the seats of everyone who makes decisions about performance contracts because you know you've been through it, you've lived it, you've experienced
Mhm.
it as a business
Sure.
official, and so we really, really want to thank you for coming on today in the midst of everything that's going on.
Eh,
And
fine.
you're welcome
Thank you.
back anytime. And I'd like to give you a chance to plug your own podcast.
Yes, I always forget sometimes I have a podcast too, and I was all days that I'm on it. I'm asking you and ask the questions, but thanks. Here, a podcast, SBO Perspectives, airs every Thursday. Been doing it now. Can't believe it. It's been, let's see, 16 months. So started January 2021. Um, Joined in with my partner John, co-host now, middle of last year, and we're just taking up. I mean, I got some calls yesterday for something really big, and I mean, the folks that we have on, whether it be folks for the state, superintendents, other business officials, vendors, I mean, such a plethora of knowledge and insight, and really, the key is a perspective that can help us all be successful in my peers, and that's why I love it the most. I love connecting on peers too. One of the reasons why I started the podcast. So, thanks for letting me get the little plug in. And so, I love your podcast. I'll subscribe to it as well, and I appreciate you. And I got to get you on mine. I realize that I haven't even had Kendra on. I got to get you on, so you'll probably be on at some point as well. But thank you so much, Kendra. I appreciate this opportunity to come on and. I wish you well in future endeavors.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack. And anytime, I would love to be on your podcast. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you at the next episode of the EnergiaSaves podcast.